PopNerdery, the show that is nerdier than designing an S&M torture dungeon in AutoCAD for your upcoming Lego build.
Oh, that one got dark quick.
PopNerdery is a place where you're allowed to have an opinion on anything in pop culture, but you gotta have more than just a little bit to say. We'll pick out some of the headlines that have us talking this week. We will do a deep dive, talk about some stuff that has us thinking a little bit, and then we will double back and give our pop culture recommendations to each other and you, the listeners. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I am your host, Brent, and with me, as always, is the Michael Jordan to my Bugs Bunny, Dave. What's up, Dave?
Hey, buddy boy. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
If they don't have more than just a little bit to say, do they end up in your Lego S&M dungeon?
No, they end up in a vat of toxic waste because introducing the Eddie Valent to my Roger Rabbit. Toph, what's up?
Beautiful.
Full circle. That was gorgeous. Hey, Brent. I'm doing great. So I got a little housekeeping for you that doesn't involve you having to go in and dust Brent's Lego S&M dungeon because we have someone who comes and does that on the weekends, so you're safe there. Got a couple ways to communicate with us here at the PopNerdery Podcast. The first one's on the Twitters, at PopNerdery, PopNerdery. Communist things as they happen inappropriately, subtweet, emoji, and generally misuse hashtags. The second way...
Hashtag eggplant.
Hashtag all the emoji eggplants, but you spell it out in plain text. You don't actually use the emoji.
Oh.
That's how you misuse it.
Whoops.
You got 3 ways to listen to the show. The first is to fire up iTunes, type in PopNerdery in the search box in the podcast section, and there we are. You can rate, review, subscribe, say nice things, stare at lovingly like a puppy in the window. I mean, I guess you could just listen to it too, but if you want to stare at the show, that's fine as well. The second way, popnerdery.com. We archive all the episodes there. You can find us discussing things in the comment, and generally there's tomfoolery that abounds.
Tomfoolery.
In case you couldn't tell by the opening of this episode.
If it wasn't made very clear that tomfoolery is high on our list of things, then you're in the wrong place. Finally, the third way to listen to the show is to whisper sweet nothings about how much you loved Colossus's physique into the airwaves, and Dave Foltz will appear out of thin air right behind you to podcast live and in person.
Ilyana!
It'd be totally worth it. Also worth it is to hit up the last episode of the show we did, our Deadpool extravaganza. If you haven't gotten that in your ear holes yet, pause right now, go back 1 episode, and we'll see you when you get back.
Those chimichangas were delicious.
Thems were delicious. So, Dave, what happened this week, buddy?
We have quite a few things to catch up on. There is one other thing I was going to tell the listeners. This is the first time I can tell them this. You can also find PopNerdery on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and like 3 other places. That's a new thing now that exists. We're not going to tell you that every episode. We are going to tell you that one time now. If you don't like iTunes,
there's your one.
We will never say it again.
I mean, I worked so hard to learn that intro that if you suddenly start screwing around with the things I have to say there, I will get none of it right instead of just half of it right.
Yeah, and half the words I said there, I don't even know that Spreaker is a real thing.
I just registered the domain, so it's going to be here in about 10 minutes.
And shout out to our new sponsor, Spreaker. Appreciate you guys.
It sounds like something you do in college without many clothes in a public park.
Spreaker. When iTunes just doesn't have enough Lego S&M for you. Spreaker.
All right. We are going to talk a little bit about the news. We haven't done a news segment in about 3 weeks. We're not going to catch you up on everything, but we are going to talk about the stuff that was most interesting to us. First and foremost, we're going to do a quick Oscar recap. I know that most people dislike award shows at this point, but for some reason I'm still a fan of them. This year's Oscars was very controversial leading up to it, and the Chris Rock monologue tackled that probably better than any of us can. So we're gonna leave that to him. Go watch Chris Rock's monologue. Yeah. I thought it was funny, but there were still some people that thought it was problematic. Think pieces abound. So go find those if you can.
There were hot takes aplenty.
Lots of takes.
Yeah.
The big news of the night was that The Revenant didn't win Best Picture. The Revenant won Best Actor for Leo. Alejandro Iñárritu won Best Director for the second year in a row. But Spotlight took Best Picture. I have yet to see Spotlight, and Toph and I talked about this a little bit before we started the show. I'm sure it's a fantastic movie, and I am very excited to see it. But when I go to a movie theater, usually things explode in there. So that's usually what I spend my movie theater money on.
He's talking about on screen, folks. Just to reel it in, since we went some dicey places to begin with.
It's a 50-50 call.
Yeah. So Spotlight and Big Short and Steve Jobs, those are movies that typically I don't see in a theater, but will see them. I always thought that Hollywood would do well to make sure they released all these movies on DVD and Blu-ray and streaming prior to the Oscars.
Or Redbox
like
just notified me that Room is now available today.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because I heard about it this weekend. Went, I want to see that at some point. Added it to my wish list, and bang, it showed up today. Like, that's brilliant.
That is helpful, and I think that they're good with the majority of them, but I haven't had a chance to see Spotlight yet. In the comfort of my own home, where I watch talkies.
I still just really like that you refer to them as talkies.
Yeah,
We have movies where things explode, and then you got those other ones where people use their goddamn mouths to make words fly out of them. What do you call them? The talkies. Those goddamn pictures.
There are superhero movies, and then there are talkies. That's it. There are two categories. That's really it.
I was all set to refute that, and you're actually kind of just right.
He made so many senses.
I think you made all the senses.
The other news, this is just me self-congratulating myself, I guess. The Big Short won Best Adapted Screenplay. I've talked about the joys of Michael Lewis quite a few times on here. So go see The Big Short.
And excuse me.
Yes?
Right. Go see The Big Short
and read the book.
Yes.
And read the book.
And Topher's recommendation, Mad Max, won gobs and gobs of awards.
You're right.
And Ex Machina, Brent's previous recommendation, won some stuff too. So yeah.
And Alicia Vikander, who was the star of Ex Machina, she won Best Supporting Actress for a different movie. But I really feel like it was a cumulative award because everybody wanted to give it to her for Ex Machina. So
correct.
Fair.
So.
Yeah. Mad Max won a lot of the effects, costume, set decoration type of awards, which were very well deserved because that was a world that was very well filled out.
They did it up. Right.
All right. Moving on from the Oscars. We had news today, actually, that good old Idris Elba, who should be cast in everything, was cast in something, which is great.
With a guy who has seemingly been cast in everything recently.
Yes.
And rightfully so at this point.
Yeah. So Idris Elba and good old Matty McConaughey. Matty McConaughey took time away from his bong to go to meetings and get cast along with Mr. Elba in the movie adaptation of Stephen King's Dark Tower. Dark Tower is a thing that I have yet to dive into because of the sheer amount of it.
The volume, yeah.
Right. It feels like it feels like this would be a book series that I would read for the next few months, even if I did the time on Audible. It would be quite a bit of my time. So it's been a little intimidating. However, I do like that we are. The characters that we're talking about are the gunslinger and the man in black. That is intriguing to me, and I feel like this movie will either pique my interest to read the books, or it will just save me many, many hours of reading books because I will watch this movie.
Frankly, I do think some of the movie adaptations of Stephen King's books end up better, and I do also think that some of the movie adaptations end up worse. So, because of everyone involved, I'm really leaning toward the previous rather than the latter. But we'll see.
It's one of the things that Stephen King, who has written approximately 1 billion pages of text now, describes as his magnum opus. So
Yes.
you got it. I mean, he brought the fire on this one.
Yes.
I've only read, I think, 3 of the 8.
Mm-hmm.
8 or 9, I don't remember. And I really, really liked it, but like Dave said, it got to the point where I was like, I really like these, but unless I want to be reading nothing else for the next 6 months,
Yeah.
I have to pepper in other things.
Yeah.
I really like these, but I also really like other books.
I like other things that aren't a part of this specific narrative.
They're
Yeah.
relatively dense and very genre jumping based
Yeah.
on everything I know, which is kind of the coolest and most interesting thing about it, and maybe an interesting screenplay adaptation because of that.
Yeah.
Could have something to do with why it's taken so long to kind of get
I
off
think
the.
just like you were saying, Brent, is that this is something that we've kind of seen the Marvel movies do, right? Where they take a set of characters and move them through different kinds of movies.
Right.
This series moves through different kinds of genres in the exact same way.
Stories,
So,
right.
I think that it might have just been that we were waiting for someone to say, hey, you can do this. You can take a set of characters in a universe and kind of do a bunch of different movies with it.
Yeah. Well said.
And I have heard some rumors that we don't have a whole lot of confirmation about this, but we've heard some rumors that this series will be a movie first and then a television series, like a 6-episode prestige something to flesh out background characters, and then another movie, should they do well.
Cool.
Yeah, which is, I think this world that we live in, where movie studios and TV producers have the flexibility to do stuff like that, we're living in the gold rush of awesome nerd properties. I'm just going to leave it there.
Well said.
Speaking of awesome nerd properties, Batman v Superman comes out later this month, and Topher actually, he's best friends with a thing called Fandango via his email, and Fandango told him about this awesome. It's one more thing that makes me have this little shining, shimmering hope that I can have confidence in this movie. That last trailer kind of fanned that flame, but they're giving away comic books, and not just any comic books. They're giving away really good comic books. Yeah. When you pre-order tickets early on Fandango. So a couple of the comic books that they are giving away are essentially entrance points into really good Batman and Superman stories. So they're giving away Dark Knight Returns #1, which is Dark Knight Returns is pretty much everyone's favorite Batman story. And it features Dark Knight Returns #1 doesn't feature the fight, but Dark Knight Returns features the fight that we are probably going to be seeing on screen between these two. You're also going to get Superman Batman #1. You're going to get the #1 issue of the Snyder Capullo series that came out. Started in 2011 with the New 52, which I have talked about ad nauseum here. You should read the whole thing.
Yes.
But if you only want to read this one they give you for free, I think it will hook you. There's also a Superman New 52, and there's a Lex Luthor issue, Lex Luthor Man of Steel, which I haven't read. But they're going to introduce people to the comic versions of these characters when they go to see this movie. And to be honest, I don't know why every single superhero movie does not do this.
It's so smart, and this is something that we've said for a long time, right? Like, we don't want to do the intro, prequel, origin story stuff. So, man, buy a ticket early, and you get these comics immediately. So you can go into the theater having read as much of this as you possibly can, or at least, flip through it all, and seeing some of the stuff that's coming up. And we could cut literally 15% of almost every superhero movie out if we say, hey, pre-order your tickets, get a couple books, which A is smart because, like Dave said, I would be very surprised if you could read at least, Dark Knight Returns, Superman, Batman, and that Batman New 52, and weren't like, I would like to read more of this,
Right.
which is good for comics. But then also, you're going in with all the backstory. We don't have to do it. And it's been a very curated, tight, read these and you are so ready to go.
Yeah, and I think if you could have people walking into the movie and getting, even if it is printing up the cheapest, flimsiest version of a trade paperback that you can get, make it a little bit longer where you're giving away, instead of giving away, 5 different #1s, give away a 6-issue arc of something that has a similar feel and tone. to get people to understand what it's like to read a trade paperback. And it can be of shitty quality, you know, paper-wise, and, you know, it doesn't have to be a collectible, a big, beautiful collectible. It just has to be a good story, so that way people can see, you know, we go to the movies for 2 hours for this story. We can also go to the comic book store to get other different stories while we wait, you know, 2 more years for the next Batman movie.
Well, I mean, just give them a card with a fucking, even if it's a QR code that goes to the Google Play or iTunes store that buys you the digital copy of the thing. Like, then there's literally not even production costs short of printing a card.
That is a way better idea. Go take your phone and go to Comixology and scan this code.
Boom.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they just hire you to do marketing?
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Well, to be fair, my second week on the job, I would just immediately begin pushing out all content that just said "fuck you." So I would get fired at some point. I'd have like 3 good ideas my first week, and then I'd be fired the second week. So
yeah. Hey, that 1 week would be glorious. Next up, I don't know how we missed this. Toph and I were talking about this. It somehow missed all of us until I was putting together what we were going to talk about tonight. Apparently, Marvel and Netflix cast their Iron Fist, and everybody in the world missed it. I don't know what happened also that day. That was big news, but this happened, you know, roughly a week ago, and we all kind of collectively didn't notice.
Right.
Did not see a thing about it.
They cast a guy named Finn Jones, who they call him Game of Thrones Finn Jones, but Topher and I are both stumped as to who this person plays on Game of Thrones. We could IMDb it, but we won't because we're lazy listeners. We're not going to do that.
I wanted to make a point about, you know, the fact that I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, if they wanted me to know who it was, just cast Robb Stark, okay? Come on.
That's the thing. You know, in the announcement, if it's someone whose name I'm going to recognize, you include that in the announcement.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy has been in some genre stuff before. People will, you know, maybe recognize what he looks like. He is a blonde-haired white fella, and there has been a little bit of controversy on the internet, as there typically is when one of these castings get announced, because the Iron Fist is in the comics traditionally a white character that goes to East Asia and learns things and comes back with some knowledge. But I really felt, and it seems like a lot of people on the internet really felt, that Marvel had an opportunity here to diversify their and cast an Asian American and maybe tweak the origin story a little bit. But
I don't think you have to tweak it. You just have it be an Asian kid who was born in the United States.
Exactly.
Have any nutrition, it would not have been hard to keep virtually everything the same and cast anyone besides a white person.
Yeah. Yep. And there are not very many opportunities within the Marvel canon to be diverse. There just aren't. There are lots of diverse characters out there, but not ones that are going to get made into TV shows. So if you've already decided to make this one into a TV show and you have that opportunity and you let that pitch sail by, people on the internet are right to call Marvel on that.
Yeah, a lot of old white men created a lot of these characters, and oddly enough, they were also other white men. And, you know, anytime we can kind of help to stem that tide of honkies, we should.
The characters were created at a time where, you know, having someone of any other background was a big deal because it needed to be a big deal. This should be a big deal because it shouldn't have been a big deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
You had a really easy chance to get a lay-in here and help to fix some of this, and they passed on it.
Yeah. So I hope he does a great job. We're not going to judge the guy based on Marvel's decision, but they had an opportunity here and they let the pitch go by. Speaking of Netflix, I just recently rewatched the last 2 episodes of Daredevil Season 1 in preparation for Daredevil Season 2, which launches a little bit later this month, and holy shit, Daredevil is good. If you haven't watched it since it was launched, just go watch the last 2 episodes and remember how good it was. It's such a good show. Speaking of Daredevil Season 2, they have released 2 trailers in the last couple of weeks. The first one featured the Punisher very heavily, and the second one featured Elektra very heavily, both of which looked pretty great.
So tasty. And just having Elektra that I'm not, like, cringing at is exciting.
That would help.
And we think this is all leading toward a Defenders
Yes.
culmination, right?
It feels that way.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
so we're thinking Daredevil now, Luke Cage in the fall, Iron Fist in the spring, and maybe Iron Fist gets introduced in the Luke Cage series, and that's why they're announcing casting now.
Yeah.
In the same way that Luke Cage was introduced in Jessica Jones, and then we get Defenders after that.
Cool.
The Defenders, I thought that I had heard somewhere that it was going to be like a 5-episode series instead of, Netflix typically does, 10, 12, 13 episodes. But we'll see what happens there. Both trailers looked really good. Elektra looked really good. And I liked the way that they are tying both of those characters together, because Elektra is an assassin, Punisher is an assassin, and they're really tying it and making it a Daredevil-centric story by focusing on his Catholicism and his Catholic guilt, which is a huge part of that character's story.
Uh-huh.
So, the last thing we're going to talk about tonight, because we haven't in a couple of weeks and we just can't help ourselves, there were some Star Wars set photos from Episode 8 that were released over the last couple of weeks. One from the first day of shooting of good old Mark Hamill himself as Luke Skywalker. He looked better than he looked at the end of Episode 7, and most likely because he had some time to get in shape. But I'm also very excited about these set photos from Dubrovnik, Croatia.
Well done. Well done.
I hope that was right. I hope that I didn't piss off every one Croatian listener that we have.
And you tried. You gave that a hell of an effort.
Dubrovnik, Croatia.
Sorry, Hilder.
And so we have heard that both Luke and Rey, or their real human names, Mark Hamill and Daisy Ridley, are shooting on this set, and it looks like a Star Wars universe like marketplace kind of is what I've seen in the set photos, and I don't know if this takes place on Luke's little island or if they go to a different planet or what happens here. We have no information, but every little scrap of information or visual evidence that we get, I'm sure, will be scrutinized.
And it's already out there, but I know people try to stay relatively, speculation-free here, so I don't know if we want to go there. But the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that was Naboo, and then and then if we have the son of Padme taking another possible relative of Padme back to the planet of Naboo, I think that could actually be a logical place. Or somewhere along the way, I think Naboo played into the storyline in some of the novels, so I think you're up on that stuff a little bit more than I am, Dave. But that seemed visually similar, kind of all the stonework with everything that we saw. So I don't know.
Well, and that would be an even, in my opinion, a more difficult tightrope to walk than what JJ did. I mean, JJ had probably the most difficult thing any director did last year, which was make a Star Wars movie that almost everybody liked, and he achieved it. But I think even more difficult than that is to tie this new trilogy that everyone is excited about more closely with the prequel trilogy, if we're right.
If it's possible, yeah.
And that would be a difficult path to walk down. I think
we really just want Gungans.
I don't want anything to do with the prequels. What? No.
Misa want a Gungan?
Oh, God, I'm quitting this podcast.
The other thing we haven't talked about because we haven't been here for a little while is they officially announced the casting of Benicio del Toro, who's rumored to be a key villain in this second one. I don't know if Hux and Kylo Ren and Phasma and Snoke all survived 7, which we're not 100% sure, but we feel like they survived 7.
A lot of ifs in that sentence.
Yeah.
I actually think all those names were in the casting release.
Yeah, so we feel like they survived 7. If you're adding Benicio del Toro to that list, it might get a little villain crowded, but we'll see what happens. The other casting was Laura Dern, who is amazing. She is Dr. Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park, and 1,000 other things, but that's what I remember her most.
That's the best thing she's ever done.
And honestly, it's my favorite thing she's ever done. She was cast in this, and immediately, we know nothing, listeners, just to preface this, but we're all immediately thinking that Laura Dern might be a Rey relative of some kind, because that's the big mystery.
And frankly, again, knowing nothing, the place, because of exactly what you said, it's already feeling villain heavy. Where does another villain fit in? If Benicio del Toro's just another first order officer, I think that wouldn't hit for me. But if he's one of this kind of collective of Knights of Ren,
that would be cool. Yeah. Give him a mask or make him an alien of some kind.
Give me BDT as a Knight of Ren, because that's, or Knight of Rey, excuse me. I need that in my life. That's, yes, come on.
I mean, what you really want when you cast Benicio del Toro is you want eccentric. So make him an alien of some kind or do something, because he does that very well. He was the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy and was very, very eccentric. So we are going to talk about some more of our favorite non-human characters in the B segment today. This is going to be I'm anticipating one of my favorite B segments in all of history. But we will be right back after the break. Today's show is brought to you by Amazon. Go to popnerdery.com/Amazon and shop as you normally would to get the same Amazon you know and love while you support the show.
You know, like that toilet paper autofill option that you've signed up for in Amazon? Like that, Dave?
Yes, exactly like that, Brent. Pop Nerdery is part of the Amazon Associates program. What that means is that you get the same selection and same low prices of the Amazon you know and love. And if you're a Prime member, you get the same Prime 2-day shipping that you would normally get. And you get to support the show. That's it. It's pretty easy, Brent.
It does sound easy. Kind of like how to, open a pudding pop and just eat it.
So listeners, bookmark popnerdery.com/Amazon on your favorite browser today. And remember to click that shit every time you shop.
Okay, Dave.
Welcome back to Pop Nerdery. Here in the B segment, like an invasive species occupying your local wetland environment, we're going to spawn and spawn and spawn and take all of the resources for ourselves until we push out native species. And by native species, I mean bad opinion.
Boom.
In this B segment this week, we're going to talk about our favorite non-human characters. Now, there's a lot of conversation that's going to occur very quickly about exactly what that means. So I'm going to proffer the topic as I thought of it, being this is anyone who is not a plain humanoid. So Han Solo does not fit this, even though he was galaxy far, far away and probably not from Earth, he's a human. Han does not count.
Okay.
Agreed.
So I have a couple of questions so that we can lay ground rules.
Let's do this.
Are we eliminating any characters that were once human but then transformed to become non-human? Your Wolfmans and your Doctors Manhattan and your characters of that ilk.
Dr. Manhattan could live on Mars and hang out naked, so he's eligible because humans would die if that happened. And Dave, if yours is, the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, that's okay.
Okay. Second question. Are we going to eliminate people who are traditionally humanoid but are alien? So, like, for example, Han Solo is a Corellian. Superman is a Kryptonian, but humanoid. We eliminate those people. I know that you're just going to say fuck Superman, but
I don't even have to be here for this to happen anymore. This is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow Superman and disallow Han Solo because Han Solo could have been born on Earth. He was just born somewhere else. Superman could not, based on his power set, could not have been born on Earth. So.
Okay. I feel like we have ground rules. None of us will choose Superman because, we've said it already. But I feel like I have pretty good ground rules. How are we feeling?
I agree. I think I can stay within those bounds and not come up with anything outside of them.
I have met all of my arbitrary conditions, so I'm in great shape here.
All right. So if this was your category, start us out.
Yes. Mine is a character that I have talked about my undying love before on this here podcast, and my favorite non-human character is the Martian Manhunter.
Oh, he's on my list.
Like, one of the things that I love so much about this character has been the long arc of his development. This happens with every superhero comic book character, and they tweak the powers and they change everything, but very few characters short of probably Superman and actually, honestly, I'm sure there are other obscure characters who have had like a couple overhauls, but at some point Martian Manhunter had atomic vision, which tells you how long ago they've created this character.
Wow.
When saying the word atomic vision meant something. Somebody like, oh, he's a Martian Manhunter. He has atomic vision. And they went, oh shit, that's awesome. Now I read that sentence and go, what is that like?
What does it mean?
He
can see quarks and shit. Yeah.
Like what? Is he like a Geiger counter? What does that mean? So that is a big part of my fascination with him, but also just the fact that when we created this, he was a Martian who was brought to Earth by a teleportation ray that was supposed to be a communications device, and he was very much a kind of a blank slate to fit a lot of different arcs. Like he was a deus ex machina in some places, just like here is a blank slate that can do a lot of things, which usually spells doom for a character because that gets boring really fast. However, he's actually become a very defined character now, especially when we start talking about him in the Justice League era, where he often serves as the very perfect center between Superman's bullshit and Batman's bullshit lies Martian Manhunter.
Exactly.
Saying, no, both of you are full of shit. Stop. We're just going to go do something else. Yeah. And that, someone who loves Batman, and, I like Superman. I give Superman a lot of shit, but he murdered a lot of people because he's a dick. However, it's like they are the polar opposites in the plot devices that move a lot of Justice League stories, and rightfully so. And I guess it's no surprise then that my favorite character is the guy who acts as the arbiter a lot of times of, you're both dumb as shit. Stop it.
He has at both times he has one of the best power sets, right? He can fly, he has super strength, but he is also a shapeshifter, which is great. He's a shapeshifter that deals with issues of identity. He deals with some of the same stuff Superman does with a lost planet. And he does have weaknesses. It's fire. Fire is his weakness. But also he has
something you find laying around more than you do, kryptonite.
Exactly. But you have
a can of hairspray and a lighter. Like, you can back him up some.
Yeah. But he also has, emotional weaknesses. That he's troubled by things, and he is a more human character than a lot of the other characters in the Justice League end up.
Yeah. And I think that's why I like him so much is exactly that point that you hit on, is that he struggles a lot with human emotions and also like morality and other things that Superman, like both Superman and Batman have, binary black and white world viewpoints.
Yeah.
And he is troubled by a lot of things. And so writers a lot of the time will use him to voice concerns that the reader obviously has and express things that when one of these
should have.
Exactly. Like one of these other characters express something, it's Martian Manhunter a lot of the time who is used as the mouthpiece of this moral sounding board to a lot of these events, which makes him incredibly compelling.
And he gets to be the voice of the outsider because he hasn't been on Earth for 33 years, his whole life.
He's relatively new here. Plus, he's green and he flies, so that worked really well for me as a kid.
Big fan of green flying things, right?
Right. Yeah. It was just like I always like the idea. Like Superman is an alien who looks exactly like Earthlings, which is just super fucking convenient. Martian Manhunter looks nothing like the rest of us and had to figure out how to adapt into a society that doesn't really like Superman takes off the tights and the cape. He just looks like a dude. He goes to work at a paper. He tries to hit on people. Martian Manhunter puts on like a 3-piece suit. Still, people are going to be like, who the fuck is the green guy drinking whiskey at the bar? Like, that's a problem for him.
That's John Jones.
That's John Jones.
Do you have, I know we've talked about Martian Manhunter for a long time now, but do you have a trade paperback?
Talk about him longer?
Do you have a Martian Manhunter trade that's sitting on your shelf that you can recommend to me? Because I'm going to go to Amazon right after this.
Because I'll Amazon this right now if you give me the chance.
Just make sure when you do, you go to popnerdery.com/Amazon. Cool.
Oh,
That's
okay.
you.
You can support the show that way, Dave.
Thank you.
I have a trade that is the Justice League International from the late 80s.
Okay.
It's a Kevin Maguire, Keith Giffen, Jay Matthias, and Kevin Maguire did the art. And it's kind of a relaunching point of the Justice League, but they tried to move intentionally away from a lot of the old Justice League stuff.
Okay.
It was part of the New 52 that was relaunched. So it was kind of that origin point. So if you've liked some of the newer Justice League and Justice League International stuff that came through the New 52, this is a great trade to go back and kind of look at a lot of the stories they're pulling from, in the same way we look at like Dark Knight, Long Halloween,
Nice.
the other things that we talked about ad nauseum.
Nice.
So Brent, you are the man in my wedding who I gave a Martian Manhunter T-shirt to.
Yeah, I was. I was. And do you remember my response when you handed it to me?
Who is this?
Yeah.
What is this? I had such just delight and glee in my face because I figured, I was like, some of my other groomsmen are not nerds in the same way we are. They're nerdy in other ways.
In their own.
So I was like,
yes.
Brent, I will give Brent the comic book character I love the most, and but is also the most esoteric, right? Like everyone knows the Superman
Sure.
is. If you've never picked up a comic.
Yeah.
Handed Brent the Martian Manhunter T-shirt, and he was like, "Thanks. What is this?"
Had no idea. And granted, I think even if you were familiar with the character, you wouldn't necessarily recognize a shirt with his emblem on it as...
You have to be ridiculous kind of fanboy to just pick up the emblem. Like, had it been like the face on the T-shirt, I think you probably would have been okay. But yeah,
exactly.
Just straight pulling the Martian Manhunter emblem, less of a chance.
that was dicey. But yes.
As my Martian Manhunter, sir, favorite non-human character.
Favorite non-human character. I'm going to try and do this chronologically if I can.
Okay.
And I think you'll find a theme in mine is that most of the ones that I pick end up, in many cases, in my opinion, becoming the heart of whatever film it is. And I'm going left field on my first one here. There is a French film that I was exposed to very early, which I'm sure everyone else was as well, whether they realize it or not, called The Red Balloon.
Holy shit, that was going to be my joke guess.
Le Ballon Rouge, right?
Rouge.
And the balloon in that character, is a great metaphor for many things in life, right? And so the red balloon is my first submission.
An incredible shout
for this topic.
I mean, and truly, is one of our longest running jokes. Is in the film a child chases the balloon shouting "Ballon, ballon, ballon."
Yep.
Anytime Brett and I were confused by things, we would simply point at them and go, "Ballon,
ballon, ballon," and then kind of like shuffle away from the conversation, so that we did not have to continue referencing anything. Surprisingly, the red balloon holds a 95% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So there's clearly people that side with me on this. That the balloon,
you're a tribe of balloonists, is what you're saying.
The red balloon is one of the greatest non-character or non-human characters.
That's a hell of a
cinematic
thing
history.
You just did there.
Thank you. I was proud of it.
I'm gonna be thinking about that one as I go to sleep tonight.
And then you're gonna wish yourself away, going.
Ballon. So
what about you, Dave?
Wait, I thought you were going chronologically. Like, what do you?
Oh, do you want
from there?
Yeah, I was just gonna continue to offer them up. I can certainly go on a spew here, but
okay. How many do you have?
I've written down 7.
Okay, Dave, tell me about a non-human character that you like.
Okay, I have written down 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 7, 8-ish. Also, one of them was Martian Manhunter. So yeah,
I'm confused about your decisions in life.
I'm gonna start with 1. It is not a balloon. It is more humanoid than that. This is the simplest answer to this question, and that's why I'm not going to spend that much time on it. It's Chewbacca. Chewbacca is everyone's best friend. Exactly. Chewbacca was the character I most wanted to hang out with from Star Wars.
Correct.
I like that they gave him some backstory, but not a lot. I like that
Dave just died.
Here's how sympathetic we are. I'm going to pick up the ball right where Dave was leaving off. They gave you some of his backstory, but not so much that we Jar Jarred him to where it's like, I don't care why you were banished from the city.
Right.
That's not important.
And we didn't need any of that to still feel totally okay with a huge walking dog being
hell yeah
right along.
Who spoke no English, had not a single line you could understand. All you were getting was reaction quotes from someone else. Which hypothetically, like even when I say it like that, I'm like, holy shit, why was that not incredibly annoying?
Right.
Where it's like the Wookiee says something you can't understand, the other character goes, yeah, but I don't want to go to the Trade Federation station. Like, that should be awful. But instead you're like, yeah, fucking tell him, Chewie.
Tell him. And I loved that they just talked about Wookiees as if, they were legendary characters in and of themselves.
Yeah.
You let the Wookiee win. Otherwise, he'll
like
rip
that was
your
a
damn
mantra
arm
that
off.
said, parents everywhere told their children, like, you let the Wookiee win.
You let the Wookiee win. That's just how it goes. So I don't think I need to convince anyone here or anyone listening that Chewbacca is an amazing non-human character. I think that we should take the time now to say any other Star Wars characters that are on our list, because I feel like there are going to be a bunch of them that we all enjoy. I think I'll just R2. R2 is a fantastic non-human character.
Absolutely. As Brent is wearing an R2-D2 T-shirt, recording this podcast.
It's a robot.
He's good in the same way that Chewie is good in that, again, it's all reactions. You can't hear what R2 is saying. It amazes me that they made an amazing movie with two main characters, the two most beloved non-human characters, not speaking a word of English.
And both of them being more human than C-3PO, the human-like droid that speaks English.
Who is the worst?
And other languages.
I don't care if R2-D2 gets vented into space. Like, we can just make another one.
Wow.
If Chewbacca dies, I'm really sad.
Wow.
That hurts.
You have
I don't know.
He's seen so much and has protected the galaxy of secrets that could have foiled the Rebels' plans or the Skywalker legacy. How can you say such awful things about my man R2-D2?
As a plot device, he's incredibly important, and I like him as a character. Like, I giggle at the things he does, but, when they tried to kill Chewie in the expanded universe, that was the point I stopped reading. And I really liked that JJ did the smartest thing possible and went, we're going to try to bring in some expanded universe ideas and everything else, but fuck the part where Chewie dies.
Exactly.
No, you don't get to kill Chewie. No.
Brent's right. Brent's been talking about this for a while. Chewie is the one who's going to make it through to the 10 movies from now, because Chewie can be 400 years old.
He can just be old.
He can just be old.
We do have to say, though, we do have to say that Christmas special and Life Day really did kind of take some of the shine off the apple, but I guess we can consider that non-canonical in the same way as his death, so we could ignore that.
That can't count, and one of the main reasons why is it just makes Chewie a deadbeat dad. Like, he just left his kids behind.
Piece of shit.
He's like, no, he shows up for holidays. It's cool.
But he shows up empty-handed.
Father of the galaxy.
Didn't he name
his
kid
like
Christmas
I'm here.
So Dad showed up. He's got some new friends. These rebel guys. I don't know who Luke is.
By the way, you're all in serious danger. I've exposed you all to just real danger here. Anyways, I didn't bring anything in his dinner ready yet because I gotta go soon.
Boba Fett's here. He's gonna blast us.
Oh shit!
Why is Dad's friend's girlfriend wearing a metal bikini?
She just got off work down at the slave ship. Don't worry about it.
My other Star Wars characters that I would rattle off real quickly: Wampa, Sarlacc Pit, Rancor. Those are all fantastic
all the monsters.
Non-human characters. Yeah, they all captured my imagination.
What? No Akbar? Akbar was the only other one on my list.
I was gonna say that one, but I figured it was a trap to say that one.
Akbar, the guy who actually has lines.
Yeah, I like Akbar. I like anyone who has a fish for a face.
Right?
for a fate.
Okay.
Blanket statement: we like Star Wars. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Star Wars is just rife with fantastic non-human characters.
Agreed.
All right.
So Brad, give me on your 7-part list.
Yeah.
Give me the numero dos.
So I'll kind of try to throw a few in together actually here instead of go chronologically.
Okay.
Again, because R2-D2 fits the criteria I already set up as the heart of the film, even though Toph thinks his beep boops are just droid banter. I think it very much personifies a lot of the feelings of the viewer in Star Wars, and similarly in a lot of the Disney and Pixar films, there are a couple characters that just add life to the story by being there, even though they're non-humans. The first one that I was exposed to that I wrote down is the genie from Aladdin.
Yes.
Arguably one of Robin Williams' greatest performances, even though you don't see his face. That was probably one of the first times I realized like a person could intimidate 700 people and all of it was going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
And it works for adult comedy and children's humor because of the slapstick nature, and so that one hits for me.
Absolutely, and after his very unfortunate and incredibly untimely death, like what the internet was not filled with. Well, I mean it was, but I saw more genie memes that came out and quote graphics and everything else than anything else, and not in like belittling way, but like that was. Yeah. That was Robin Williams, and he spoke to people through a lot of that character.
Yes.
And that was something I found. It was not a bad thing. It was very touching. It was just like, wow. It wasn't like, there was a lot of Dead Poet Society and some of the other, but like I just saw a ton
Goodwill Hunting, but
totally. But like that was the image that was pervasive, was him in that role. So I completely agree.
And I think our generation that whether we realize it or not was a poignant moment in our upbringing. Yeah. Dave?
I was going to say, I like that you brought up Pixar because I just wrote down Toy Story, because technically all of those characters are non-human, and I feel like that is
Andy's a person. Are we going to talk about Andy? Because Andy's on my list.
We're not going to talk. Andy is so stilted that he is not human. I can't believe that he's a human. No.
What a multi-dimensional character, the guy that hasn't played with his toys in probably 15 years, but then thinks about how important they are to him when he goes off to college. Yeah. Buh, Toy Story, buh, not the best Pixar movie of all time. Buh, just had this debate on Twitter. Buh.
I don't think Toy Story 3 is as good as people give it credit for, but the first two Toy Story movies are
mad online right now.
Outstanding.
I am mad online. And if you follow me on the Twitter at Shouldn't Brag But, every once in a while I will break into non-football 140 length tweets. And this was one debate that I had. And sorry I cut you off there. Toy Story is not the best Pixar film in my opinion.
I want both of you to keep it in your pants because next week's B segment is going to be the best animated movie, so
stop.
We'll hold on to that one then.
I'm saying one of my characters that I wrote down because of this exact topic is Wall-E. Wall-E works so well as a character who doesn't speak throughout the film.
Yeah.
Doesn't have much other than big eyeballs to even remind us of a human, but just his amount of kid-like wonder and appreciation for the small trinkets in life really was a character that worked for me. So
I was also to defend you about this Pixar rant you were going on. Then you pick up the most ham-handed. I mean, not that all Pixar films aren't ham-handed in some way, but you picked the environmental movie to stake the claim on. Like shit. I had some. I was going with you, and then
Wall-E's the greatest Pixar film of all time, and Wall-E is one of my favorite non-human characters. Sorry,
we're gonna yell about you next week about this.
So just so that I can save Topher his B segment for next week, I'm going to give you the character that is not animated, but is the ancestor of Wall-E. and that's E.T. Just look at Wall-E and look at E.T. and tell me Wall-E isn't E.T. It's
Dave,
very
I want to interrupt
similar,
you.
kind of fish out of water kind of thing.
I want to interrupt you. I haven't seen E.T. in probably 15 years.
Yeah.
And my only memories are of it being a horrible, creepy thing. Sell me on specifically why, like, that it's worth a rewatch. Like, why is this character so compelling that as an adult you should go back and check this thing out?
I think that the way that you should watch E.T. if you haven't seen it since you were a kid is wait until your kid is old enough to watch it for the first time and watch it with your kid and watch it.
Subject him to the terrifying creepiness.
No, I just mean watch it through that lens. Watch it through his reactions because it is classic Spielberg Amblin magic. It is just a magical movie, and I feel like I have more nostalgia for it than other people do. But
it's clearly a popular film for a lot of reasons. Yeah.
Well, I remember it being atmospheric as hell, and like the underlying thing is creep, like that horrible like alien screaming when they're trying to cut them apart in the clean tent or whatever the fuck they were doing. Like I remember it being a very horrifying thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Which is, is a good job done right? Like, they built enough drama in me that I was like, I don't want this anymore. Like, this tension isn't released. Oh, my God.
It was the first time
also. Interested to hear you say that.
It was the first time also that I truly connected with a Muppet character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's like a Muppet character where
Elliot. I didn't know where you were going with that. Sorry.
No, but you have like your Muppets on Sesame Street and stuff like that where you know that they're Muppets, and then you have E.T. who E.T.'s not a real thing, but he emotes in a real way. With the way I don't know if that's Jim Henson or not, but I
don't think so.
I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so, but great character.
That's funny you say that. I will attack your equating E.T. to Wall-E because I think only in the shape of their head is there much similarity.
And the body, huge face, tiny neck, big ass.
That's how I like them. I do think that there's I think I saw E.T. before I saw this character, but for the exact reason you just brought up, it was a Muppet or puppet that actually still captured kind of me pulling them in, was the character of Ludo in Labyrinth.
Wow, that's another great shout.
I loved that character, and he was the heart of that film. He probably more than Chewbacca, even though I think Ludo was basically just a Chewbacca ripoff. Really, I bought in hook, line, and sinker during my Labyrinth experience, and I don't know again whether that was before or after E.T., but I got him because he was a Muppet that didn't necessarily feel like a Muppet. He felt like a emotional character with his expressive eyebrows and big underbite.
Totally. And I think that you could probably say, the Labyrinth and Neverending Story kind of hit about the same time, have a very similar. You can make an analogy to all of the characters in there, and it's again the big, huge, openly emotional. Like it makes sense. That's why kids connect with that, right? Because it's the one that has the most clear intentions and emotions, and that's for saying a giant hairy dog puppet has the thing that connects best with kids, like at a very kind of deep level. Like that's a very difficult thing to do.
I think every kid sits and talks to stuffed animals thinking that they're listening and talking back, and then you actually see that on screen and you go, whoa. Yeah.
And they operate at a level that is, my assumption is, what our kids are, they're seeing what they're seeing in their imagination, right? Like this character is now doing that on screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good shout. Dave, do you have another one?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with a category, and my category is kind of WB animation. I think that my favorites are Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, the Chuck Jones versions of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Go read the rules of Chuck Jones, Coyote, and Roadrunner if you never have, friends.
And those rules seem so they seem so clear and they seem so well, duh. Why would you not write those characters that way? But if you haven't seen it, Google the rules of Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote by Chuck Jones.
And then look how many modern characters in films those rules apply to for opposite characters. Yeah, you look at them and go, "Duh, of course."
Yeah.
And then you realize that's a template for. I mean,
and somebody had to
template.
Somebody had to think through that and write it down before they ever started doing it. Right.
Right. So I think that those two characters are two of my favorite quote unquote non-human characters. They're non-human and also they're not real. So there you go. I got a double whammy on that one.
Agreed.
Yeah, you got a twofer right there.
Yeah.
I have one final one that. Do you want to go? You got a final one?
Well,
tell me about your final one. No, tell me about your final one.
So this one, I guess it's just because we haven't gotten a chance to bring this movie up yet. But this movie worked so well when I was in love with it that I think I saw it like 3 times in the same summer. I mean, I haven't really gone back and watched it. But the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman, friend of the podcast, John Goodman, as Jonesy / Azazel. And that's where I'm going with that. That character, I think, was one of the first times I saw, the devil or a demon personified on film, and it worked, and it was compelling and interesting and different and scary as hell, and very smart. Absolutely.
I've never seen that movie. I need to add it to my list.
Oh, man.
I've never seen it.
Absolutely much watch.
I've never ever seen it, and it looks. I mean, give me some Denzel, give me some John Goodman.
Yeah, what's not to like about this combination?
Don't remember much of what I said going into that movie. Not that.
Yeah, I mean,
you may not be able to see what's coming and things like that, but you need to see that movie. I'm sorry, Dave. I figured for sure that one was on your radar.
That's just one that never really hit my radar.
I should have just gone with my other Disney reference. Damn.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
All right. Well, I'm going to take us out on the one that probably, arguably, is the most important non-human character potentially that we've had in pop culture, which is Kermit T. Frog.
Oh, Kermit.
I mean, like no other character has had, a shelf life that's equal to a lot of the longest running, like, Golden Silver Age comics, like KermitFlail.gif. That literally, he was a puppet that Henson was doing in commercials, and now he's PuppetFlail.gif. Like, they have a current show on ABC. The Muppets are one of the longest running, contiguous cast of characters who show up in movies and TV shows and multiple TV shows. And, this was truly the first time that we really had a puppet that appealed to both kids, because a talking frog, that's fun. But, like, his inception was not as a kid's character. It was an adult character that Henson was using as a storytelling mechanism that, continues to still be, we talk about, and we're going to argue a lot about Pixar movies next week, but, this was the foundation to the dual layer movie, where there are jokes for adults and jokes for kids. And that was the first time that we really kind of had let's have a quote unquote family movie, but not in the way that it's family safe, but instead, like, there are going to be layers that you're going to get, they're going to fly over your kid's head, and they're just for you. Like, we're going to give you something here. Right. And, Kermit is the heart and soul of that entire universe. And aside from being, like, it's one of the most simple Muppets, like, Muppets get more and more complex, and they've got crazy shit, and, like, I've caught a couple of the episodes of the Muppets, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Like, who's the guy with the tentacles growing out of his fucking eyeballs who flies around? Like, what? Just give me the frog with the hand up his ass and who's doing this number. Like, it's the most simple character. Like, you could see the rods. You could always see the arm rods. And yet that never dissolved you never had to go to the suspension of disbelief. Like, you always believed that character was real.
Yeah. And I think that foundation that you talked about, where it works on 2 levels, that is what makes every good piece of quote-unquote children's entertainment, is that it is watchable for us as adults now when we will go to show it to our kids, or you guys go to show it to your kids. Things like SpongeBob SquarePants, things like Shrek, things like The Incredibles, Things like
Yes.
Calvin and Hobbes that work on two levels. Speaking of non-human characters, Hobbes. I love Hobbes because his non-humanness is so often a part of the story of a given strip, and it's
important, right?
Yeah, it's a very important piece. But yeah, that where it works on both levels, I think you're right. I think you nailed it. I don't know if there is a more important non-human character to I mean, especially to children's entertainment, but to
the point that we could get, a Chewbacca, a fucking walking, talking dog in a sci-fi movie. Like, it's easy to have weird aliens with like tentacles and horns on their faces and shit, but to have someone that's relatable,
right?
Yeah, and you guys, I think each one of our examples fits exactly that description, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Wally is a character that kids go, "Aw, oh," and parents go, "Oh," There's absolutely an element to that in every one of those cases. The Red Balloon is a tiny little children's film made by the French in the 60s or whatever, but it still means something to adults because it has layers, and
the Martian Manhunter voices the why is this a problem? Why are we fighting this fight? That kids go, well, why is this a conflict? And he acts as that, the Metatron figure in those comics to say, morally, what are we doing here?
Yeah. So that's probably
Frog.
That's probably the real criteria, even though we didn't realize it and set it up top. So I'm glad you brought us home with that one, Toph. Well done, sir. Proud of you.
It's the beautiest thing. So if you'd like to hop into the comments, episode 14, and agree with me about how Kermit is the greatest non-human character of all time, please do. If you'd like to jump in there and also tell me about how much you love the Martian Manhunter, you're welcome to. Or if you want to talk about some of the other ones we named, those are fine too. But, mostly I'm looking for Kermit and Martian Manhunter shouts here.
His two contributions.
He only named green things. Just
he's a greenist.
Team Green. Hashtag Team Green. And with that, we're headed to commercial. We'll be back with some recommendations and some final shout-outs in the C-section. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Go to popnerdery.com/audible and sign up for a free trial to support the show and get hours of entertainment.
So by entertainment, do you mean like the acid reflux that I experience sometimes when I have a few too many nachos and sodies?
I want you to think about that and reverse it 180 degrees, and yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. With the free Audible trial, you're going to get 2 free audiobooks. So right there, those are words for your ears. After the trial ends, you get an audiobook a month for $14.95. You get 30% off any additional audiobook that you want. So when you're just craving them audiobooks and want to keep shoving them into your ears, this is the way you do it. Cancel at any time, finish the subscription, and the best part, you get to keep the books even if you cancel. Take that, Netflix.
Keep the books? Like I keep my Maylocks on the shelf? Pop Nerdery brought to you by Maylocks. Oh, no, sorry, wrong ad.
Audible. Go to popnerdy.com/audible to sign up for your free trial. Then tell your friends so that they can have audiobooks.
And hello again. So this will be our last segment here for episode 14, and we are going to take the chance to remind each other of a couple things we need to be getting in our earballs or eye holes. And if it's new for us, it's probably on your radars or should be as well. So with that, I will throw directly to Dave to start us off with our recommendations.
Yes, I am going to recommend a Twitter account. I don't often recommend Twitter accounts. I mean, to be totally fair, I don't often recommend Twitter in general to people, unless you're following @Shouldn'tBragBut or @TheHospitalBall. For all of your...
Don't do that last one. Do the first one. Don't do the last one.
But I'm going to recommend to you today, fearless listeners, true believers, @BatLabels. @BatLabels. This is a Twitter account where all they do is they screenshot things that are labeled in the old Batman 66 television series. And if you haven't watched the Batman 66 television series since you were a child...
First, go do that.
Go do that. But holy shit, there are some things that I forgot about. And when people used to tell me, they used to say, Dave, Batman 66 wasn't just a campy piece of shit television show. It was operating on many levels, which we just talked about in our last conversation. You don't really get it until you look at this Twitter account for a little while, and you see just how absurd they were being, and they knew they were being absurd on purpose, and they were doing it for a purpose.
Owned it.
Yes, they owned it. The one that really sticks out to me is the henchmen that run around with T-shirts that say "henchmen" on them. I can't get enough of guys just knowing their place in the world that much. Like if you were to take it literally, they're just like, "Yep, that's what I am. I'm just gonna go ahead and wear this T-shirt." Or the Penguin really doesn't want them to have individual personalities so much so that he makes them those T-shirts. The one they posted earlier today was the Integro Differential Robot Analyzer. I don't know what that did. I have no idea what that was used for. What device.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Batman designed it for a very specific purpose.
Yes. Topher, you were mentioning one to me the other day where Batman sprayed a thing on a priceless piece of art. What was that one?
He had the. I'm gonna fuck it up, so apologies to Batman, but it was like it was the art identifier spray where you could spray it on like a counterfeit painting or a real painting. A real painting would, I guess, do nothing, and a fake one would like melt or something similar to that. So
yeah,
that's what you want to have. Some jackass in tights spraying weird chemicals on a fucking Rembrandt. And like, good news, it's safe.
As long as it's Adam West, I think he can get away with it.
And here's
the only jackass in tights I want spraying things on things.
Exactly.
And here's one from February 26th. It's an image of the Batmobile parachute pickup service spray painted on a van, and the Twitter account says, "Who's driving this? Contractors?"
My favorite ones are always the ones that are labels on pieces of technical equipment found inside the Batcave. There was one that was the Intergalactic Recorder. One was the Bat Spot Analyzer. I love that he has all of this weird.
If you think Bat Computer is like chuckle-worthy,
right?
Get you some of these other labels because that shit is hilarious. Well,
I love that he has all this weird advanced technology, but yet feels the need to label all of it so he doesn't forget what it is.
So he'll find it later.
He has hundreds of machines that he's designed, and it's hard to keep them all straight because they're all so customized and specific.
Someone else pointed out, I saw this the other day, that on his belt, on his utility belt, the labels are on the front so that the viewer can read them, but Batman himself would not be able to read that while wearing the belt.
For Batman.
They face the camera, not Batman.
Yeah, which I love. So, @BatLabels on Twitter.
Perfect.
Great recommendation. What about you, Toph? What do you got for us this week, buddy?
So, we discussed it earlier in the A section about the upcoming Daredevil series that includes now The Punisher. So I'm going to recommend 3 of my favorite Daredevil Punisher stories to go back and kind of get yourself ready for this run. So the first one is called The Bully, which does a really nice job of kind of fundamentally separating the two characters, looking at, the Daredevil's a guy who wants to solve crime via punching them in the head and then taking them to court. And then the Punisher, who wants to murder things with guns, which is all, that's an effective crime deterrent. So, that's fine. But, this does a really nice job of, they're following the same perp. So this helps to kind of explain, it's the same criminal, but when viewed through the Punisher's lens, this is a guy that you go, yeah, shoot him in the head. Shoot him in the head now and be done with this. And when viewed through Daredevil's lens, you're going, no, like, you got to bring him to justice. He's got to account for the things he's done. And that's the most perfect thing when you look at the exact same story from 2 different viewpoints and go, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. Helps to really iron out those characters.
But it really helps to set up all of the conflict that's going to happen between them in the series in a really kind of a succinct way, an issue there. The second one is Means and Ends, which is a Hell's Kitchen without Kingpin, where they're trying to both they're attempting to work together to suppress crime in Hell's Kitchen, but
Gordon Ramsay versus Kingpin? What?
So they're baking. They don't have enough ingredients because Gordon Ramsay has fucked them over and didn't leave the baking powder. So how are you going to make
a frying pan? And then threw a frying pan at a kid or something? Right?
What are you, an idiot sandwich? Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
But they're kind of trying to work together, and they just can't truly figure out how to, work these completely different viewpoints, which is, again, a really kind of nice explanation of the characters. The final one is from the seminal Welcome Back Frank series from The Punisher, a specific episode called Devil by the Horns, where I'm just going to read from the passage. Punisher says, "If you don't shoot, you have a death on your conscience, a death you could have prevented. If you do shoot, you're a killer." Daredevil says, "What kind of choice is that?" Punisher says, "The one I make every time I pull the trigger."
Boom.
Wow.
Again, this is all just setting up what we're going to have, further explored in this season of Daredevil. But there's a lot of stuff where I think for the most part, a lot of us have probably a conflicted viewpoint where you kind of appreciate the Punisher. What does the Punisher do? Just fucking kills criminals. Just kills them. You don't fuck around. You don't dick around. You don't have anything. You're not Batman. You don't got to tie him up. You just fucking shoot him.
Take him out.
In the goddamn head. Yeah. And Daredevil wants to push everything through the court.
And I do like that. These stories take the time to fully flesh out the Punisher's viewpoint, so he's just not a guy with a gun.
These do a really nice job of really giving you a lot of his viewpoint, where it's not just crime is bad, so I'll kill him. This gives you the backstory and helps you get inside his head, where you're saying, especially when you're looking at the Bully, does a really just brilliant job of the same criminal viewed through two different lenses, but you look at it through the Punisher's viewpoint and going, I'm sympathetic. I get it. Yeah. That's the only solution.
Yeah, and I hope Netflix does the same thing. Take the time.
Cool. I think if that trailer is, if the season is half as good as that trailer, then I think we're going to be on the same track there. So check out The Bully, Means and Ends, and from the Welcome Back Frank, Devil by the Horns.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. And I will try to wrap up recommendations. I actually I have two, and there's, if I stretch it, there's a little bit of a theme in kind of the titles of the two things, but I think they're good thought pieces, if nothing else, and should be a little bit of fun as well. So the first thing that I will reference is an essay called I Pencil. I don't know if either of you are familiar with this, but it came across my radar in a Freakonomics episode recently, and there's a really good YouTube video that was done which kind of condenses a lot of the themes and easy findings of this essay, but it was an essay that was published in 1958 by Leonard Reed. Again, it's called I Pencil. The YouTube version, I think, is 8 to 10 minutes, something like that, but it basically just touches on how no one person is individually capable of creating one of the most simple tools that we all take for granted, a pencil, because it's outsourced to so many different industries to actually bring the components of a pencil together. And so it just kind of talks about how, a lot of the creations that get made, or a lot of the products or services that are available to us in this economic system aren't because of one person. It's because of the global efforts to better our own lives. So just it's a cool little way to learn about the invisible hand if you're not familiar with that concept or don't understand its full meaning on economics. But mainly the video I thought was just a quick, easy, cool little thing to get some profound learnings from. And similarly, in a dorky way, one of my favorite comedians who I really feel is underappreciated is a guy by the name of Dimitri Martin. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Dimitri Martin had a show on Comedy Central which got canceled after 1 or 2 seasons because I think it was a little too heady for a lot of people. But if you're listening to this podcast, I bet you're a bit heady.
We can probably talk you into that kind of thing.
one of the first things I was exposed to by Demetri Martin was a comedy show that he wrote and did for the BBC. And my buddy Eddie Galata from college showed this to me, and I was
Eddie Galata.
Yeah, I was hooked. Go watch If I. The trajectory of the show is Demetri Martin telling you why he has all these stupid human tricks that he can do, and why he has so many just idiosyncrasies of his own dorkdom. But it's really funny, and Demetri Martin in general is a guy that I think is underappreciated. So kind of 2 YouTube videos, because If I is available in its full entirety on YouTube, and that video is as well of iPencil. Those are my recommendations.
Put more of Demetri Martin in your eyeballs.
Yeah,
do it.
I will suggest start prior to his most recent Netflix special, because I watched it and it's not as good as I remember him being.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
I haven't watched it yet.
I loved If I, and I went and watched his Netflix special, and it was very meh. So if you've watched that, please do not let that dissuade you from viewing If I. So
go back and watch his older stand-up specials too, because they're better than that.
Yeah, just do that.
Yeah.
Like just watch YouTube stuff. He has one called like More Jokes. It's really good.
I love it.
Yeah. Check out Demetri Martin most recent Netflix flop.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, with that, I think that will wrap it up here for episode 14. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Toph. If we want to hear any of your musings, as we found out, we can follow you on the Twitter. Dave tweets as @PopNerdery on the Twitter for the show. Hit us up in the comments of this post. Get to the website. Let us know what you want us talking about. Argue with us on the Twitter. We are ample, arguers any moment of any day. And with that, I think that'll wrap it up. I will send some finger guns at Dave and Toph. And
finger guns.